buddy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am fantastic. I probably had one of my most favorite days in all of music journalism earlier this week.
Were you singing Geronimo while you were
Yes, I
doing it?
was. Yes, I
That
was.
song's been in my head since you told me about this. And I'll be honest, I did not know who they were until you said that song, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh, now I know who they are. And it's
that
been
song
that
is
lyric's been in my head.
that song is going to use a vocabulary word, but it is truly ubiquitous. It is everywhere.
You know,
It
you and your
is,
vocabulary words, you like to point that out to me like I'm a
I
child
know,
learning to
but
speak.
this band from Australia, they didn't use too much slang, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So too many Australian vocabulary words. I got to do an interview. We hung out in the green room, and then they said, "Hey, we're doing a VIP thing at 6 o'clock. If you want to come watch the acoustic performance." Did that. That's where I got my photo taken. You can see that on this episode here if you're watching it, because again, we only did audio. And why have I only been doing audio on these on-site interviews? I'll tell you just as a little bit of housekeeping before we get into how great the day was with Sheppard. When you're doing an interview before a set, typically your artists are not camera ready. They're not going to
Right.
be camera ready because that's not part of their routine to get dressed and get dolled up like they want to be able to present themselves before it's showtime. So actually, out of respect for their routine, trying to be as unintrusive as possible, as non-intrusive as possible, I just go with the phone and plop it in the middle and we just have a conversation. And I think the less gear there is in the middle of the room, the more willing they are to just have a conversation and the less it
Yeah.
feels like an interview. So forgive the fact that it's on an iPhone because, as you know, Buddy and I like to lug our gear across the country. So why couldn't I take
Speak
it
for yourself.
a mile and a half across the metro? Well, it was just the way it worked out. So Sheppard, of course, Geronimo, they are an Australian pop band. They talk with me about the way pop is received in Australia versus the States, the difference between overproduced pop in Los Angeles versus authentic pop, which is what they do. They write their own songs, play their own instruments, produce their own tracks. And yes, there were tracks at the show, but as I said in
Mhm.
my review, it never overpowers the live playing, and it was really good. Went, like I said, for the interview at 3 o'clock. Hung out. They invited me to just hang out while they did load in, and the band did load in themselves. After the interview, I'll kind of tell you what I learned about how they're touring that I can share. A lot of stuff was off the record, but a lot of stuff they
Right.
also talk about from the stage too. So I'm comfortable telling you about it. And they've moved to Nashville from Australia in October of last year. They're trying to re-break America with these small club dates that are sold out. The tour is sold out. I think
Nice.
they release 10 tickets or so just before every city, but the tour is sold out. They're doing it themselves. Spent the day, hung out with them. I've known their guitar player. He's a red carpet buddy of mine because he has a news outlet as well. And so that's how I found out that they were touring the States. And it all came together, and it was just awesome, awesome day. Their tour manager, Liam Sheppard, who is married to a Emma Sheppard, they have the same last name and they had it before they were married. He's just an unrelated Shepherd last name, complete coincidence, spelled the same way too. He was
Wow.
fantastic. All of the spouses are on tour. They were fantastic. It was just a really great day to watch a touring band do what they do. And I'll tell you a little bit more about my day after this really great interview with Shepherd. I am sitting at DC9 with one of my favorite pop groups, and I mean that, like literally top five favorite pop group. Oh, wow. I am here with Shepherd, George, Emma, and Amy. Thank you so much. This is so much fun to get to talk to you. We'll talk about Geronimo in a minute and what that means to me, but I want first start about this tour, your first tour in 6 years. It's a ham question because I know you have the album coming out, but Emma, you and I were talking about this downstairs before we started. Why now to do this small little tour? I know you said to see if you were still able to sell tickets here in the States. Why now? Why 2024 in the summer?
Well, I think we had planned to move before, but COVID happened and that kind of ruined a lot of plans for a lot of people,
Yeah.
including us. So that put a hold on our move. And then we finally decided to make the move. It was a huge decision for us because we are, comfortable in Australia. We can sell tickets, we get festivals and whatever else. So it was really scary making that decision to come over and leave everything we know. But we decided now is the time. And we essentially came over to tour and connect with our fans in the US. And so we were just like, we're here, let's do this tour and see if we can sell tickets.
But I think this was the first time in our careers where everybody was sort of open to the idea. The three of us are obviously in the band and we're committed to this, but we've all got partners. And my wife was at university. I mean, Amy's husband still has a business in Australia. So there was always something that was like preventing us from actually making that leap. And now, after COVID, after we released Kaleidoscope Eyes in the middle of COVID, and we didn't get to tour it, didn't get to go overseas, didn't get to actually tour Australia with it even, it was such a disappointing release for us, even though we were so proud of this album. The circumstances just didn't allow it to do what it needed to do for us, and this time we were like, you know what, we're going to make this work in the States. We're going to move over, we're going to base ourselves there, and we're just going to release this album over in the US and be there for anything that comes up. And this particular tour is kind of our first like dip of the toe into the market, so to speak, to see if people remember who we are and to reconnect the band with the song Geronimo and remind people that, hey, we're here and we're ready to play.
Yeah, we didn't really do much marketing for this tour. We just posted on Instagram and to bands in town. But apart from that, we were just seeing like.
And you're sold out tonight in DC.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
That's good. That's good guerrilla tactic to be able to sell, move inventory with just minimal posts.
It's great to see, and it's good for the fans that are really passionate about us because they get to see us in an intimate venue and be really close to us and really feel that energetic vibe in the room.
This tour we have a VIP ticket that we sell as an add-on, and it's been really, really an amazing experience to meet these fans who are like die-hard Sheppard fans. Been waiting for us to come over here for years and years, and that's been going really well. It's really nice to have that connection with these people after so long, talking to them over Instagram and trying to like keep that, I guess, relationship going from overseas is really difficult, but now we get to actually like meet them all. They get a t-shirt and a poster, and then we do like a Q&A and a couple of acoustic songs for them as well. So it's really nice to like have that extra connection for those diehard fans.
That's awesome.
You can join if you want.
I was about to say I'd like to just kind of observe that if you don't mind. I'm going to stick around here all day. I'm not going back to the house. So I want to talk about the move to Nashville because you brought that up. I have a friend who's in a punk band who lives in Nashville, and you scratch your head, and it's like, why Nashville? And so whenever artists who aren't in the country music space pop over to Nashville and say, this is where we're going to base our music operations, clearly there's thought behind that. What made you decide that Nashville was where you needed to be when you came to the States?
There are a couple of reasons. We have toured a lot of the US, but we never made it to Nashville. Really? And no, just for one reason or another, like it just never happened. And in 2019, I decided that I wanted to start releasing country music as a solo project. It's been something that I wanted to do for quite a while. And in 2019, I came over to Nashville to write an EP, and I just fell in love with it. I was like, the culture, it's a music city, and it's not just for country, it's for all types of music. And I could see that it was growing, like it was exponentially getting bigger. People were moving there. So I went back and said, like, I think you guys would love Nashville. And like, we've been out to LA so many times, and I think we just never felt quite at home in LA. But I think George, like after the pandemic, end of 2022, George came over, and I think he understood what it was all about. Amy, you came over as well on a separate trip, and yeah, it just feels similar to Brisbane, where I'm from, like a big country town vibe. People are friendly, you can get around easily. It's in the middle of the US essentially, so we can just like drive either direction and get somewhere. So that was one of the big points, and plus it's becoming a hub for music, not just country music, but it's great for Sheppard as well, because there's so many writers, so many producers, and we're just like, if we're not touring, we're writing, and it's a great hub for that.
And something we've noticed since being there is just how eager people are to hear something other than country music in Nashville. So we just did CMA Fest. We did 2 shows in one day, and at both shows, people were just like, how refreshing, like we never get to hear pop music, or it's always country music, and like I guess it gives us a point of difference in a market that is kind of saturated with country music. There's like, well, there's this girl with blue hair and a guy with pink hair, and they're singing happy pop songs, and they're all siblings, and we've got this like really fun, infectious energy on stage. Like you can just see how much we love to perform, and we love sharing that energy with the crowd. And I think it's definitely a new chapter for Nashville in that sense of like a lot of pop producers and writers are moving from LA and New York, and it's sort of like a nice central base to tour from as well, which is a big part of it.
There's another pop group that I like. I don't compare them to you at all. It's completely different sounds. They're called the Scarlet Opera. Just saw them, and I think now they're based out of LA, but I think what you're touching on is there's a hunger in pop music for some more authenticity than maybe sometimes LA producers can sort of overproduce a record to death. And I don't hear that with them, and I don't hear that with you, and I don't hear that with Australian music in general. There's an authenticity to a lot of the music coming out of Australia that makes it big here in the States.
Yeah.
That you don't necessarily get out of LA. So all of what you're saying completely makes sense, I think. There's a hunger for different genres that also feel like they're from the heart, just like country music is known to be. So,
Yeah, storytelling.
Exactly.
That's at the end of the day, music is about relating to people, and storytelling is one of the oldest forms of relating to people. And I think, to echo what you said, I feel like, a lot of the LA sessions that we did in the past, obviously you get the ones that you really click with, but otherwise it's kind of like speed dating, and it feels a bit like it can be a factory, and you just go in for one day, and then there's like, and they do this production, and then it's done, and you're like, it didn't feel real to us. And songwriting in Nashville does have that like extra layer, or I don't know what it is, a sprinkle of something that just kind of has that organic nature to it, which we really enjoy.
Yeah. So let's talk about the new record, Zora. I was listening to the singles on the way here because we put this together so quick I wasn't able to get the full record from your team, but I cannot wait to listen to the full thing if the singles are any indication. Was that done in Australia? Was that done here? A mix of both? Talk to me about the origins of that.
Yeah, it was done in Brisbane, a little bit in LA, a little bit in Sweden. So we Stockholm, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I took a little trip out there, and it was just wonderful place to write. I mean, I know a lot of the Swedes have moved to LA, and there's like a big pop hub there, but there's actually a huge pop songwriting contingent in Sweden, and so I just kind of went over there to explore and came out with a few great songs. But between those 3 cities, we kind of wrote this album. But we started writing it pretty much the day after we released Kaleidoscope Eyes, because like I mentioned earlier, Kaleidoscope Eyes was released in a time of COVID, and we didn't actually get to tour it. Like, you'd release an album, and then you'd announce a tour, and you'd go on tour, and there'd be like a year cycle at least where you'd be traveling around promoting the album, but we didn't get to do that. And it was really disappointing for us as a band. And we sort of started channeling those frustrations into a new album, and we just kind of got back to work. And a lot of this album was out of trying to give ourselves some hope for what was to come. It was easy to feel like the world was ending, during that time, and that
especially with not just us, but like felt like the music industry was just decimated.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of heartache over those years.
Definitely. And I know that it's not unique to us, and so we kind of wanted to write an album that gave people around the world this sense of hope, that even though times are really dark right now, the sun rises just over the horizon, and if you can just hold on and keep a bit of resilience, then you'll make it to the sunlight, back to the warmth, back to the daylight. And our our grandma actually inspired a lot of it because she was a refugee from Yugoslavia. So she was from war-torn Yugoslavia. She, at 18 years old, she traveled to Australia on a boat, no family, just kind of landed, never saw her family again, and built a life for herself in a tiny little town called Kalgoorlie, which is in outback Western Australia. And she met her husband and had 7 children, and then he passed away from lung cancer and left her to raise 7 kids on her own. And so she's had this really, really tumultuous, tragic experience in her life, but she's still the happiest person that we know. And somehow still walks in and lights up every room with this like radiant smile, and she loves people. And she always says that, you know, that love and people always get her through these situations. And we kind of reminded ourselves about that when we were going through this tough time. And we eventually said to ourselves, all right, look, we've got all these songs about resilience, about, you know, the sunrise, about waiting for the daylight, the dawn to come. And we've been inspired by, you know, our grandma who's Croatian. What is dawn in Croatian, to try and pay homage to her? And we typed it into Google Translate, and lo and behold, it was her name, Zora. That was the exact translation.
Oh my gosh.
We just couldn't believe it. It would like hit us like a train, that coincidence.
That's amazing.
And because we knew then and there that was the album name. Like, we couldn't ignore that type of serendipity. So yeah, we knew that was the name of the album.
Wow. Where do you go from there? That's an amazing story.
It's
It's
crazy.
beautiful. 15 tracks coming out June 21st today as we're airing this.
Mm-hmm.
But that's awesome. That is so cool. Yeah, I love when there's a personal connection to the music like that.
For sure, yeah.
And there's such, in the 5 songs, I think 1 or 2 are ballads, but the rest are these big sounds that you guys have that I just absolutely love, and is in many ways kind of your signature. These big sounds, and I just makes you so happy to listen to.
Well, yeah, we wanted to balance that like authenticity and that personal connection, but we still wanted it to be insanely fun to listen to, like the rest of our catalogue. So, yeah, I mean, we tried to, you know, balance that little line, and I feel like personally we've made our best album yet.
It really is good. Excuse me, I got some ice.
You're good.
So obviously you moved to Nashville with a goal, like we said at the beginning, to reconnect yourselves with the American audience. What's the goal now that you're here, now that you're getting your feet wet with this tour of these intimate venues? What's the goal over the next couple of years for you guys, musically, creatively, live?
Stadiums.
Yes, everybody. Yeah.
I think it's going to be about, like Kevin said, reconnecting with the fans and just reminding people that we're here and sharing our music. And it starts like this, you know, we're playing these small clubs, but to be honest, I've really missed this intimate sort of setting and being able to, you know, be a meter away from a fan and seeing their faces light up and singing every single word and feeling that energy in such a small room.
This tour has been really special because you see, because they are super fans in the crowd, each and every one of them are just like, you know, this is the moment that like they've been waiting for a long time, so you can feel that, and it's really special. But yeah, it's connecting the dots to, you know, our music, because I think a lot of our songs are in playlists, but people don't really connect that, you know, we're the people that sing Geronimo that also sing this song, and
Yeah.
So we'd love to do that also.
Yeah.
And then creatively
Build the fan base. Yeah.
Lots of more music. Lots more music. We've already started writing because we've got so much, you know, time to write in Nashville now.
Yeah.
You know, we can write 4 or 5 days a week, you know, on any given week. So we've got a head start on album number 5. And I think that's super exciting that we can sort of fast track that now. Whereas before we would always do those like trips to LA or trips to, where else are we, Sweden. And now we can just do it in our spare time, which is great. So I think there's going to be a ton of music fast-tracked fans.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love Geronimo. That song actually means a lot to me personally. I'll tell you about that off air, but I love the new music. I love everything you guys do. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes here. Really appreciate it.
Of course, Matt.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, mate. Anytime.
I was listening to Zora, their album that is out today as we are airing this, has some really great anthemic arena sounding songs that are really catchy. the way they're doing it to reintroduce themselves to America is they're just doing it themselves. Their roadies are their spouses. They
Hmm.
are nine guys and gals, including their two road musicians and all the spouses. Um, they are nine guys and gals in a Toyota Sienna and a U-Haul. The U-Haul isn't even a truck, it's a van, but it's only a two-passenger, two-seater van, and the rest of this U-Haul is gear. Driving up from Nashville, doing their own load in. And I say this because I want people to understand we do not live in an era anymore where sound like I know everything about the music business, but
Yeah, you do.
this is something I've just kind of recently learned and taken to heart. Just because you might have a big hit that everybody knows, if you don't stay visible, if you do not stay in the spotlight and keep cranking out music, it means nothing. Yeah,
Right.
sure, okay, you'll get good royalties from Spotify and, might sustain you being able to be full time, depending upon how often you're streamed, but doesn't mean you're going to have a big group when you go on tour. And they're selling their tickets through Eventbrite. Like I sell my tickets for my magic shows through. So
Right.
they have a hit and they're doing it themselves. So if you are a
Eh,
new band out there touring like that, do it. It's like one step above my friend Peter, who's a musician I was talking about, throw out all his gear in his Toyota van with his three other bandmates and just doing it that way. It's one step above that, using
Yeah.
house backline for the drums, and that's it.
Well,
But
it's tough, especially at the level that anybody's on these days that's not, selling
right.
stadiums and arenas. But for a band like Shepherd to be able to do that, I mean, you have nine people that also have to eat and sleep somewhere on the road. You have to make money, and these tours often are not, or maybe they're breaking even. So that's another story, but that makes me wonder where I would be right now if I were playing music, and it actually kind of deters me from wanting to do it independently like I had talked about doing
Well, I'll
when
tell
I
you
came
what it
back
made
from it.
what it made me want to do. It
San
made me
Geronimo?
No, it made me want to find a band that's just on the road grinding it out and do what the police call a ride along and
Yeah.
just hop on for a couple of days and really see what this life is like. Because I was intrigued. I mean, they're doing it all themselves. But yes, they have said Geronimo. They're back in the States. The new album, Zora, is out today, June 21st, as we're airing this. And go take a listen. I've listened to the singles that I've been able to get my hands on, and it was on Apple Music, and it's really good. They're just a really good, happy pop music band. So go ahead, take a listen, and we'll shut up for now. That's it for the Music Universe podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Buddy. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out at themusicuniverse.com and on socials at the Music Uni. Take care.